Hey guys, just got back from lunch. It's Friday. Usually don't start anything on the race car until Saturday, but I had to go ahead and get this done. What I'm gonna do tomorrow started today because I need help getting the front end off the car, and I won't be able to by myself without scratching a bunch of stuff up. So this is our little thing we've been working on here for the downpipe. This is going to be our exhaust tip. Now we've got some buddies that do some 3D welding. You've heard of 3D printing? Well, they do 3D welding. And we're gonna, because our exhaust is gonna be titanium, this is gonna be a titanium exhaust tip, which will incorporate our logo in the middle. It's somewhere between a teardrop and a triangle, I guess you would say. But right now I'm going to make a cardboard stencil to go behind it to stiffen it up. I'm going to use this piece of 4.5 inch aluminum because the tip is going to transition into round, and it's going to be 6 inches total length. So I'm going to put this on the end of this, and I'm going to fixture it in place on the car or on the ground. That way when I pull the front end off the car, I can build the downpipe to the back side of this, even though we don't have this made yet. So that's what I'm doing here, and we'll get it put in place. So what you watch me do on time lapse, I put this 4.5 inch piece, 6 inches long, made me a cardboard template to stiffen it up. I have glued it with many different types of glue, you know, whatever I could find around the shop here. And I'm going to put it, it's actually going to sit like that. I'm going to set it in the hole and make a little stand to go under this, where I can put it exactly in the same spot, trace out a spot on the floor where when I pull the front I can put it right back exactly where it was, or else we can pull the front off without touching it if we can do that. But just to show you what it's going to be like, get the camera moved up here. Well, bear with me, my camera's finally seen better days. So this wheel opening is really kind of odd. It rolls forward, and I didn't want just a round pipe coming out. I wanted something a little bit different. I didn't want just a standard teardrop either. God, there is glue running down this thing, and my fingers are sticking to it. Maybe I should have waited a little bit before grabbing it. Anyway. And the smell of super glue will about kill you. We are going to be something like that. It's going to be basically level with the bottom of the bumper. It's going to follow the bumper contour and be flat, just like that. So it's going to almost look like the bumper continues down, but this is going to be the tip. It's going to transition back into a round tip. See if I'm gonna have to get it leveled up and do all that once I get it in place. But I'm gonna make a stand to come up from the bottom here and just hold this right there, and then we'll pull the front off, and I will build the downpipe to the back of this pipe. And then whenever we get our piece printed, I can just put it where it is and weld it up. We're actually working on getting a 3D printed plastic version of this just to test to make sure we ain't got to tweak this any. But for right now, we know it's going to be 6 inches deep. We know it's going to go right here, so we can go ahead and start mocking the downpipe up to it. So let's get that stand made. Okay, we have our fixture made up. We're level here. We're level across the bottom. We've got our depth set. We've got a nice stand that we can sit on the ground and stencil around and make marks, so if it ever gets off, we can still put it back in place. You might wonder what this cam is right here. This is the logo of the 3D welding facility. Kozlowski, I think, is the NASCAR guy's name that has the facility, but it's right around the corner from the shop, and we're going to see if we can't get a little bit of help on the pricing with advertising for those guys a little bit. So that's why that is in the corner right there in our model here. So let's get our piece set in place and stenciled around, and then we'll be able to pull the front off this thing. Well, just being transparent with you guys, things don't always go the way you plan. And this is one of them. Our mock-up piece, you can see we have a little clearance issue. So we're still going to keep the plan with this tip, but we're going to have to cut our mock-up piece off, and we're going to have to use a bend. And it's going to have to go to the front of the car, maybe, I would say probably a safe 30 degrees or so. We're probably going to do it 45, just so we get it going in the right direction, and then we can build our pipe to it, and then we will make this tip match the offset center line there. So let's make another mock-up piece. I think we got it now. I cut apart my little fixture, and I was able to reuse the template, but I got a 4.5 inch bend out of the back and put just a little kick on it. I'll show you the tire clearance right there. I gotta go turn the wheel, but pretty much the most clearance we're gonna have is whenever the car is like that. What we was having to watch out for was the clearance right there. You can see we got plenty, but when the tire comes the closest to the flat, it turns a little bit too far. You can see that is what our concern was. So now with that little kick in it, I think we'll be just fine. But you can see how that kind of lays flush. I need to tweak the position just a hair. Follows the contour of the bumper on the front. I think that's gonna look pretty trick. Be one of a kind. That's what we try to make everything. Got it from the front of the car. Alright, so now on the floor, we're going to trace out exactly where that aluminum is on the base, so we can pull the bumper off and start running our piping. Joey's not here this morning, so I might try to attempt to get this thing off by myself. All right, you seen I managed to get the front end off by myself. A little bit tricky. You gotta watch because the back of the assembly here is the OEM metal, and it will scratch my nice Plasman intake. So getting it off by myself, you have to put a rag under the middle and let it kind of slide down the intake so it don't, ensure it don't scratch. So we got our piece set right where it's gonna go. So now we have something nice to mock up to. Show you what we're gonna start out with over here as far as our material. This is a clamp from Race Parts Solutions. Part number 481540. This is the one I'm going to use on the downpipe. This is a 4-inch male, just universal V-band flange from Tycon Industries. I wasn't really even sure it was going to work when I ordered it, because this is a Bullseye Turbo NLX 104, if I haven't mentioned it before, and they have their own V-band housing. So this is what I've got, and look at there. It fits perfect in the locating ring, or it actually goes inside the housing, the locator. So that is really nice how that worked out. But all titanium stuff. The material we got, we are going to be using 1.2 millimeter or 047 wall for this downpipe. These are 5 packs of pie cuts. They're loose radius because I didn't want a really tight radius, and the loose radius is not but, let me see what the loose radius is, only 1.37D, so it's not that far out from the tight, but the loose I think looks a lot better. Got our O2 sensor bung here. This is the O2 sensor bung brace. We got our reducer coming right out of the turbocharger, and I couldn't get this in 047 wall. It's 039, but there's only a very small section of it, so it should be fine. But that's going to step it up to 4.5. If it was stepping down, the thickness, you know, it might create a lot of heat there, but since it's stepping up, the heat is getting less. We've got our filler rod here. This is 1 millimeter, I think, the thin stuff, and then we've got a straight piece of tubing here to fill in any kind of straight we might need. So not the most or not the cheapest stuff in the world, but it is very lightweight. It's very nice, and anything you get from Tycon, it comes nice wrapped individually, part numbers. It's super nice when you get it. So we're gonna get this mocked up on the car. I'm gonna probably just use some painter's tape to begin with, and just to see how the flow is gonna go, because I'm not sure how I'm gonna take it just yet. So here we go. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tack this reducer to the flange that's going on the turbo, so I can actually clamp the pipe to the turbo as I tape it and form it around for mock-up. What I'm using is a 16. This is a GLS fab. It's a standard pink style cup, but it's got a double diffuser in it, just like most of them. Landon, he provides us with these. He's also got some white ones that are like plastic, or if you drop them they don't break, but he's also got these as well. I like these because they're really durable. I've got the gas cranked up to about probably 35 or so, just for tacking this together. And I still got to go over here and get my rod. I haven't even opened this yet. Get a piece out. Probably going to put about 3 tacks on this just to get us started. Titanium don't take a lot of heat. It's almost like welding bubble gum, if I had to describe it. One thing you have to do is remember to turn your helmet down. You're running really low amperage, you can't see. Whenever I struck that arc right there, it was like I was looking into the dark. Get some pre-flow going. Might need to go just a little bit darker on that. Been a while since I welded this stuff. Remember I said it's like welding bubble gum? Whenever you put the rod to it, it just sticks. When you try to pull it off, it feels like it's stuck to it. Just a couple little tacks there. See, it turns white on the inside if you don't purge. We'll just wipe that off. Really wasn't worried about it just for this. So we'll get that on the car and clamped up, and then we'll start mocking up our pipe. used up all the pie cuts. At least they're not going to go to waste, because we definitely need a 1D radius to come out of the turbocharger. Because after turning the wheel all the way, it is a tight fit through here. So I just continued mocking up what I had. These are all the pie cuts that we got. These are the long radius. I've just got them roughly taped together. When you're lining these things up, an easy way to do it, if I can get it turned around without it falling apart, find your weld seam on the pie cut and just line it up all the way down. Same thing when I switch direction. You can see, just use that as your lineup mark, because you'll never eyeball it and get it really close. That one there needs to be squeezed a little bit, but get it flipped around here again. It's going to look pretty sweet, and it's going to fall right in line with our tip. Once we take that reducer off, we'll add a piece of straight there, and that will be our tip. Go right around the turning radius of the tire. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this flange and reducer off of the end of this, and then I'm going to take some aluminum pieces, some aluminum 4.5. If that'll stand up, I better lay it down. Some aluminum 4.5 that I've got scrap, and I'm gonna get the bandsaw and set up to do a 1D pie cut. Come back here, we've got tons of scrap left over from downpipe merges and stuff. So I'm gonna take a bunch of this and make a 1D radius out of pie cuts. I think it ends up being like 10 pie cuts to do 90, and that's what we need. I'm gonna do that and mock that up before I take this straight piece of titanium here, because I don't want to waste this stuff. It costs a good bit of money for all this. And I'm gonna put this in the bandsaw, and I'm gonna leave it set up to cut those pie cuts. I'm gonna cut the pie cuts myself. And just like with these, I can line up the weld seam, and it'll work out perfect, and I won't have any wasted material. So don't know how long that's gonna take, but that's what we're gonna do next. So we got this done after a little bit. This is 10 pie cuts. Order tight radius from Tycon. 5 pie cuts make 45 degrees. So on a 1D, or on a 1D that is, doing 4.5 degrees per side. So that's what we did. We set it up on the bandsaw. And just took some scrap. I'll tape these together as I go. Might be better to do one at a time. No weld mark to line up these, but they're all smushed kind of the same around the bend or around the pipe itself. So it lines up pretty good. If it's wrong, it's gonna not line up. See, that's way off. Maybe I'll just eyeball this. This is just mock-up anyway. That looks pretty good. Do a piece of tape across all of them. Just do another piece right there since we got it. These two on top are off. Oh, this is nerve-wracking, but it comes with it. Let's do 2 at a time. Look at the thickness in the front. See what you got. Them two. Pretty close. I'm gonna tape them up. A couple pieces of tape laid out here. These two. There's pretty close. Couple more. I did not clean the inside of these. There's no point. They're not going to be welded together. They are just used for mock-up because there's no point to order the tight radius pie cuts if they're not going to work. If they're not going to work, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll cross that bridge if they don't work. Okay, we got 5 sets of 2. Now we're going to try to line them up this way. I can tell that one of those are slightly off, but it'll get us close. We just need this to continue our plan. It's easier to do this than spend another couple $100 on titanium that's not going to work. Because the tight radius pie cuts, they're a lot thinner. I guess they're harder to cut, but they are about almost 3 times the cost as the long radius. So we definitely want to make sure they're going to work. See if I can get these together without them falling apart. Now with 1D, that basically means the same radius as the diameter of the pipe. If they don't specify an actual radius number, if they say 1D and it's 4.5 inch pipe, then it's going to be a 4.5 inch radius. You can see my pie cuts are a little bit off because that should have made 90 degrees. You can see we're not quite 90, so I might not have been cutting them steep enough. I set the saw by the dial on the back of the saw and didn't really check it with anything, just because I'm just trying to get something together quick here. Almost there. Make sure that is 10. Yeah, it is 10 pieces. So we're going to check this on the car. Let's see if it helps us a lot, and it does. I'm going to try to set the camera up where you can see what I'm doing here. It'll stay on the intake. Don't know if it will or not. Yeah, it'll stay there. Okay. Got our tip in place. I'm going to take the reducer off. Leave all the rest of the tape in place, because I need to put the reducer back on the turbo. That's going to eat up a lot of room, but we got to run it. I even looked at welding the 4.5 straight to the flange, like right up where the clamp's going to be, but that'll screw up. I think that's going to screw up the clamp. So now is a more accurate simulation of what it's going to be, which looks awesome right there. What will be even more awesome is if I hold this pipe up here and it gets close. And it will. Get my hand repositioned here. I can hold it better. Just imagine that radius coming on around. It's going to take like 3 more pieces, I believe. We went and cut some more. See, it snakes around there. I've actually added 3 more to this. And we're going to put it up there. And see how it works out if the camera don't fall off. So this is 13 pie cuts. Definitely going to be the import look on this. We're going to rotate it down just a little bit. We actually need to add that 4th one on there to get it to come out and meet with the tip. I'm going to do that right quick. I'm not sure if I want to try to cut these out of that titanium straight. Definitely going to have to put a fresh saw blade on there if we do, because the saw blade that we have back there is missing about 20 teeth off of it, and it was tedious enough trying to cut this aluminum. And the titanium will flex a lot more than aluminum because its material is so thin compared to this. You can see all these are so out of round because they've been mashed by the saw vise. Be the same deal if we did this out of cut the titanium pieces, but got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You're gonna have to buy 15 pie cuts to get this radius, which is about $300. So we will make the decision on that soon enough. But that is going to work out super good. Look at that. It lines right up with that tip. Like, the plan couldn't have been any better. Trying to see, probably just do a solid piece of titanium out to there, or we might just we'll have to hand cut that probably. And do slices to simulate the pie cut all the way out, because I don't know if it'll look good with a straight piece on the end like that. And it's going to take one more pie cut to get it square with the tip. So we'll do one more pie cut, and then we'll do straight slices that are about as big as these pie cuts. That way the look continues on out. So that's really going to look good though. Gives it the import look. It's got an LS motor in it. So from here, if I don't start cutting this titanium today, we will continue this video next week if I order some stuff and it comes in, which I'll probably end up cutting it because it has to match this exactly. If it doesn't, this ain't gonna work out if their thicknesses on the inside of their pie right here are different. So I'll probably just go back there and get to work. I might get done, I might not. If I don't get done, I'll post this video anyway, and you can see the progress for this week, and then I'll just finish up next week. So we'll see. If I don't finish it, See you next week. Alright, we're back here cutting some titanium. Just thought I'd show you while the saw is going. We're cutting it dry. We're not using any coolant. We don't like to make a mess. I think this is a 18 tooth per inch saw blade. You can see I'm just feeding really slow. You can hear the spot where it's not cutting any metal. That's where a big row of teeth is missing. I don't think we have another saw blade, so I'm just making do with what we got. The main thing is you just don't want it to grab the pipe and try to rotate it. And the spots it's going to try to do that most on are when it penetrates the top and when it's on the very bottom. Get your hand out here and hold the pipe, assist the vise a little bit. Because if it rotates, it's going to bend the piece and it's going to be jumped. So we just got to be patient. We've got 14 cuts to make. We're actually 15 if you count this one. It's doing good so far. We're fortunate we've got a 2-foot long piece, and we're probably only going to be using less than half of it to get all those cuts. So, we'll see how it goes. So we had to switch saws because this saw has a lot better clamping bed. That saw over there, even though we use it for our production stuff mainly, and it's a lot better quality saw, the bed doesn't have as big of, I guess, vise on it. This little Harbor Freight saw, it's got a big wide vise, so it grabs the tube really good. And this got a better, this blade isn't missing a bunch of teeth, so we're gonna see if we can have better luck out of it than the other one. Because in the time lapse, I don't know if you can tell, but it about ripped the tube out. So we can't have that. Well, that was nerve-wracking. There we have our first pie cut. And after, I know on the time lapse it wasn't but 20 couple seconds, but after probably 8 or 9 solid minutes, maybe 10 minutes of cutting and sitting there squeezing the end of the pipe and it trying to jerk it out of the saw and doing all that nonsense, I'm probably just gonna order 15 pie cuts that are from Tycon already pre-cut. So I'm gonna put my pipe back up here and maybe fit the piece going to the end. I'll go in here and order the pie cuts, and then I'll fit that piece, and then it'll be pretty much there until I get those to replace these aluminum ones. So, to be continued next week. See y'all.